Professor Mani, you can start.
Namaskar. Good evening, everybody. Let me welcome you to this very special webinar being organized by Oxford University Press, particularly for college students and for executives who have just entered the threshold of their corporate careers. Gives me great pleasure to welcome each one of you to this learning journey which we have organized for you to look at what are the career challenges that one is facing today and how does one plan for a successful career. As I progress into sharing some of my thoughts, I would be happy to answer questions at the end of the session. So you're welcome to put them into the chat box, or you could also put them into the YouTube comment section so that we can address some of these at the end of the session. One of the first thoughts that comes to my mind when we talk about career planning for life success is to remember that when you're planning your career, please seek happiness. Success will automatically come your way. If I were to remind you of the Bible of English, which is the dictionary, I think all of us know in the dictionary, happiness comes first and then comes success. Unfortunately, for many of us in this rat race, we are chasing a journey of success, believing that if we become successful, we will also attain happiness. But it's not always true. However philosophical it might sound, I want to start by leaving this message for all of us. Be in the pursuit of happiness in your career, and I can assure you, success will automatically come your way. So many of us in this meeting, attending on Zoom and on the YouTube channel, either are college students who are on the verge of graduation, or some of you are pursuing your master's programs, and there are yet some of you who have already begun your career and perhaps are revisiting their careers at this given point in time. I'd like to share with everybody that when we talk about career planning, we look at a couple of milestones. The first milestone, which I'm sure all of you have crossed, is the milestone of the 10th standard, which signifies the end of school education in the formal sense and the beginning of college education. Many people don't realize that the school education, which is of a duration of 10 to 12 years, actually is the stepping stone for the college education, which is another 8 to 10 years. Very often when I talk to college students, many of them are shocked that don't tell me I got to study another 10 years. And I must say, I assure you, all the young boys and girls, if you want to build a solid career foundation for yourself, you need to be investing those 8 to 10 years of your time in your college education. This time period is calculated as a couple of years in junior college, which is about 2 years, 3 to 5 years at the graduation level, depending on which course you study, and another 2 years at the master's level. All master's courses are generally of a 2-year duration. So if we do a quick add up, we are talking of a period of anywhere between 7 to 10 years. If I look at a mathematical angle to the number of years you would have completed while you have done your schooling and college, it's about 25 years approximately. And we have a very simple formula. The first 25 years you invest in developing your career, and trust me, you can do very well for the next 50 years. Gone are the days when people used to retire at 58 and 60. With life expectancies gone up, with the changes happening in the world around us, and the fact that today age is just a number, your investment in your career, in your college education, till your master's stage is just the beginning. And these 20 to 25 years, even if I take 20 on the lower side, would take you through for the next 50 years of your career. So please do not look out for shortcuts. Please follow the traditional methods of formal education as prescribed. I know we can debate endlessly on whether these methods are still valid. The National Education Policy is looking forward to bring some sweeping changes to make education a little more all encompassing, a little more liberal, if we may use the word, more flexibility for entry and exit into different programs. But these are only going to support further the existing base and foundations of our education system. So the first message I want to leave for all young men and women, and I include all those young men and women who are already working, please look at a master's qualification at least so that you have a solid career foundation as you progress. And thankfully, the education system in the country allows you to do your master's at any point in time of your career. There's really very little age restrictions. So even if you think you're 33 years old and then you're an engineer and you want to do a master's, you couldn't do it earlier because of family circumstances. The time is now. Please move on to complete a master's program so that you have a solid career foundation. Let's also distinguish between two concepts, education and learning. Education is that process where you go to a formal institution, acquire knowledge, and at the end of it, write an exam and get certified. Learning is a lifelong process which goes on from womb to tomb, as is rightly said. How much ever you and me may be educated, let's resolve for ourselves as one of the key success factors is we need to be continuously learning. One of the outcomes of the pandemic, in a positive sense, has been the multiplication of digital learning at such an exponential speed that no one ever expected. Be it Swayam, the platform conceived in India, or edX, Coursera, Udemy. And I must tell you, even leading publications like the Oxford University Press have so much of digital learning programs available to you on a short-term basis. Please do not stop learning. Add on to all your certifications so that at any point in time, you are enriching your own knowledge and ensuring that you are future-proof, you are recession-proof, and you're ready to cope up with whatever is going to happen in the future. So two concepts, let me reiterate. Can you be recession-proof and can you be future-ready? And the answer to that is continuously go on to the learning process. In order to build up a successful career, I'd like to draw your attention to a very simple model that all of us have read, but are experiencing in a very different sense because of the pandemic and its implications. Most of us have heard about the VUCA world, VUCA, the VUCA world, where people said the world around us is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And that's how the acronym was born. VUCA, volatile, as I said, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. But trust me, you must now relook at VUCA because it is rightly said that every adversity presents an opportunity. Every setback gives us a chance to come back, perhaps stronger. And I want to redefine for all of us When we talk about career planning, let's look at the same VUCA and flip it over to a positive dimension. Here is my prescription. We have a vision for yourself. What is it that I want to do in my career? What are my dreams? What do I want to pursue that will make me happy? And please remember, this discussion is only about you. It's not about what your neighbors told you to do. It's not what your classmates want you to do, nor is it guided by what your parents said that, dear child, nowadays there's a lot of demand for nanotechnology. Why don't you do it? All these are secondary factors for me. You set a vision for yourself. I would like to be a designer. I want to be a radio jockey. I'd like to get into the field of finance and become a stockbroker. Paint a vision of your preferred future for yourself. Revisit your dreams. Dreams are what you see with your eyes wide open, is what the so respected Dr. Abdul Kalam rightly said. Have a vision for yourself. Start. One. Second, once you decide on the vision, the next important thing to remember is, in pursuit of this vision, take a philosophy of united we stand, divided we fall. Why I'm making this prescription is, in this rat race that we are running today, we measure our success by others' failures. We tend to compare our performances with those of others and then decide whether we have succeeded or not. I want to reiterate to all of us in this room, please focus on building your own success formula. And that success formula is the pursuit of excellence. Excellence is something which I believe is a journey. It's not a destination. And therefore, though you have performed at the level of excellence, you can always ask yourself one more question. What can I do better and better and better? And trust me, this is possible only if we have a united approach of supporting each other. A very famous Sanskrit shloka says, Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. It simply means it's not enough to be happy in the world if I am happy and I'm successful. It's important that everybody around me also can experience the same. And it is this message that I'd like to leave behind for all of us. In your pursuit for happiness and career success, try to take along people with you, because your target is excellence. And when we define excellence, we don't define it in comparative terms, we define it in absolute terms. If you have got a 98.3%, go ahead, celebrate. Don't sit back and have a condolence meeting because a competitor got 98.7%. Instead of celebrating the 98%, you are condoling the loss of the 0.4%. Please change your life philosophy to one where we look at becoming successful by helping others become successful. Moving on to a philosophy of what we call win-win. Haven't we, through school and college, experienced that during examination time, the scholars, the toppers, they usually refuse to help others. They're almost so scared that by helping others, their marks will be reduced. Not realizing so childishly that the more you spread knowledge, you are able to do better for yourself. And therefore, I like to emphasize that unity. And that's where we talk about India as a country too, unity in diversity. If you can help somebody with their economics, they can help you with soft skills. If you could help somebody do a good presentation, maybe that person could help you do well in your body language and listening skills. This is so very important. Please remember that here we are talking about unity. Here we are talking about collaboration. Here we are talking about a situation where you can be successful by helping others become more successful. The third dimension of VUCA, which is so very important to us, is character building. You may not find books on character building. You may not find lectures on the same in a typical college setting. But I think character building starts at home. This is where we are talking about character building as sanskar. What is so critical here is this has to be imbibed and internalized, because it is this character that you bring to the college and to the corporate world. And we really see so many of you becoming happy, becoming successful, not because you were a top scorer, not because you had plenty of knowledge in your mind, but because you had a sound character. Your integrity took you miles ahead. Couple this up with compassion. Compassion is so very important. We've gone through a turmoil over the last 18 months, and I hope every one of us has taken this opportunity to help out to those who actually needed our support. We must be grateful to God that we had the opportunity to be much better than so many others who went through turmoils, health-wise, emotionally, job stability-wise, and such difficulties. Character and compassion are two very integral parts of developing your career. To conclude on the VUCA model, I'd like to emphasize on the importance of agility. Agility simply means the ability to adapt to a situation, rise to the occasion, and do your best despite the circumstances. In agility, what we are actually trying to say is, are you ready to cope up with the situation and try without giving up? Every time you wish to say, I can't, please rephrase it and say, I can try. The T in the can't can be converted to the T for try. Simple way of interpreting the same word, I can't, to I can try. This importance of being agile, of being rising to the occasion, leads us to a behavior which is called being part of the solution, not being part of the problem. And I think very often, many of us encounter that when we are working with a group of people or a team, there are so many people who are negative minded, who very often feel that ye nahi hoga, this is not possible. And therefore, I often tell them, you are now being part of the problem, not the solution. So I'd like to summarize for all of us. Have a vision for your career. Remember, move on in a track of unity. Can I help others succeed in the path to building success in my career? Character building and compassion, so very important traits. And most important, the ability to respond to any given situation, any adversity by being agile and adapt and be part of the solution, not be part of the problem. Why I emphasized on these four aspects is these are actually the core of your entire attitude, your entire mindset, your entire value system, which we need to build up if you want to build up a successful career for yourself. Just by attending an interview mock session just by being stylish in English, just by wearing an attire which is impressive, is not going to guarantee you a job in the company of your choice. Because when the interview panel comes to select people, they are looking for four things. And I share with you the sequence of these. They're obviously looking for knowledge. They're also looking for skills. They want to check out your attitude. Let me go into each of these. When we're talking about knowledge, we're talking about conceptual clarity about any area that you study. If you're a law student, concepts on law. If you're a student of artificial intelligence and machine learning and blockchain, conceptual clarity on the same. This is the starting point to check your knowledge repository. The next logical thing that they are trying to check out for you is, what are the skills? What are these skills that can make you future ready and recession proof? The first and most important skill is the ability to communicate your ideas in a simple, effective manner. May I urge every one of you, notwithstanding what background you come from, be it a vernacular medium, be it a convent school, are you a student of a state board or an international board? All these are secondary factors. Are you able to communicate effectively, share what is in your mind across to a set of people who are trying to interview you, to give you an admission in a higher education program or to give you a job in their company? Communication is fundamental. This is one skill which will be evergreen and is always required for you to succeed in your careers. Obviously, today when we talk of a global environment, many of you aspire to study abroad. Many of you want to work abroad. And that's where we talk about the importance of English as a language. I'm sure many of you know that if you were to apply for admissions abroad, you have to write examinations to prove your competency in English. Casually put, these are the TOEFL exams, the IELTS exams, just to name a few. So to come back to skills, communication skills, and English is the language of business. So please develop a good command and confidence in speaking in English. You might say that my mother tongue is Hindi, Tamil, Marathi, Gujarati. That's fine. Even my mother tongue is Tamil. I've been born and brought up in Maharashtra over the last 50 years. I can converse in Marathi and Tamil effectively, but the language in which we communicate in the professional platform, be it a college, be it a company, be it a conference, is always going to be English. So please develop this skill for yourself. It's so very important. The second skill that is required for career success is listening skills. Very often, what happens to any one of us is we are not very fond of listening because we believe that listening is an inferior activity and talking is a superior activity. Trust me, it's more difficult to listen than it is to speak. We are so used to hearing. Hearing is to do with sounds. Listening is to do with words and understand their meaning. So I sincerely hope that you're listening to me and not hearing me. What is so critical about the listening process is listening is the first step towards understanding. Listening is the first step towards building a relationship between 2, 3, 4, 5 people, as would be required when you're working in the corporate world or when you are embarking on a project as part of your college education. In listening, the first principle is to stop talking. The second simple method of improving listening is to take notes. Trust me, I can show you a lot of slides on PowerPoint sharing everything that I'm talking about. But very often what happens is When you're concentrating on the slides, you're actually just copying down everything from the slide. You're not even listening. You're not even processing the words. You're not even understanding. And this is no offense to any one of you. This is a general observation that in case you want to develop your listening skills, keep a paper and pen handy. Make your notes. Listen to the words carefully. Note down the keywords. All this might sound so very simple, but I can assure you it's not as simple to implement. It requires a great degree of conviction. It requires a great degree of determination and effort to become a good listener. Another skill which is so very critical in today's world is the ability to interact with people in the digital platform. Digital is here to stay. And I'm not saying this with reference to the pandemic and the lockdown. All of us, be it students, teachers, professionals, executives, have got used to the digital world and have learned that connecting with people globally through a digital platform has become more possible. Whether it be doing businesses on the digital platform, whether it be teaching on the digital platform, or all the learning and training modules available on the digital platform. Digital is here to stay, so I'd strongly recommend to all of you to please hone up your digital skills. It's not restricted to having WhatsApp chats and IGTV live. That's not digital. That's just one part of it. Using Google Meet, understanding how Google Classroom can be a good format, how to have Zoom webinars and conferences. All this calls for a certain amount of skill building. Please make that extra effort. I'd urge every one of you to become digitally savvy. Because as organizations move in a transition, even post pandemic, from digital to physical, I visualize that there will always be a combination of the two. And that is what we call phygital, physical plus digital. Learning is no more going to be restricted to textbooks. There are going to be online teaching materials. There are going to be tutorials which you can do online. There will be so much of psychometric testing that can be done online. Trust me, all of this already exists. Maybe many of you are not aware with the speed at which all this change is happening around us. So it's so very critical for you that develop your digital literacy. Not because of the pandemic, I repeat, I visualize digital learning is going to be the order of the day as we progress into this entire approach to skill building and therefore career success for yourself. One of the most important changes we have seen in the world around us is the importance of quantification and analytics. A skill which I think every individual, notwithstanding if you are a science student, come from the commerce or humanities background, need to have a sharp ability for analytics. Gone are the days where you could say that only students of mathematics and commerce and accounting need to be analytical, or an engineer needs to be analytical. Today is a world where everything is being measured. So we're even looking at situations of what is called behavioral analytics. I don't want to get into very complicated definitions of these, but all I'd like to say is when you have a set of data in front of you, please develop the skill to be analytical. And this is what we notice happening around us in the form of short-term courses, in the form of tutorials and refresher programs by name of data analytics, business analytics, and so on. Developing an analytical bent of mind is not something which is restricted only to those who work in the quantification area, which is the finance, accounts, the commerce, the economics, statistics, mathematics. Please do not have that wrong assumption. Building an analytical skill is a must. And I look at the future demanding this skill from every professional. The fifth among the skills, which I think is so important among the four earlier ones, which I expressed, and to recap, communication skills, the ability to talk, express yourself verbally, be conscious of your body language also. Second, listening skills, which I think is more important and more difficult to practice. Third, your digital skills and how digitally savvy you could be. Fourth, business analytics or data analytics. Start with basic data analytics, where we are looking at a set of data, a set of information, and how that information can be analyzed and used to predict either trends or predict behavior. To give you a very simple example, most of us use online shopping tools. Amazon perhaps is one of the most famous ones. If you do a search on Amazon to buy a set of iPod for yourself, 2 days later, if you have not completed the purchase, every time you go online onto Amazon, you're going to get friendly reminders, pop-ups. You're going to get hints that the price has come down. You're going to be told that, hey, offers are available. Why don't you consider buying it? All this is precisely what I was explaining to you, that your behavior online is being analyzed. There are a set of people who are collecting data and trying to predict what could be the behavior patterns for you as an individual when you're shopping online. Here is where I repeat, the analytics is here to stay. Look at this as a core skill to develop. And you don't have to wait to start working. You can do it at any point in time of your career. Even assuming you're 40 plus and attending this webinar, looking out for career success and happiness, analytics is something you can visualize for yourself as a huge advantage if you're able to build up that skill for yourself. The concluding skill, which I think is so critical, is your networking skills. And don't jump to the conclusion that I'm talking about networking skills as in hardware and software. I'm talking about networking skills vis-a-vis connecting with people, building relationships that last. And this is so very important as a skill. We need to realize that the more we connect with people in such a globally connected world, you could build communities, you could build associations, you could build synergies and try to help each other succeed. Connecting to somebody in Canada or the United States has become so very easy. I'm sure most of you are on social media platforms, but I, for one, believe in the professional networking community. It is LinkedIn as that one platform which I would urge everyone to be meaningfully present. Meaningfully present means being part of the community, interacting with fellow associates, building those relationships at the professional level, contributing some of your articles and ideas as might be appropriate, responding to some of these which might come up online as part of LinkedIn. This is yet just a starting point. Sky is the limit. You'll be amused if I told you that there are even training programs and short-term certification courses on how to effectively use LinkedIn to leverage your career. I repeat, you must look at developing your network, because ultimately, I believe your network is your net worth. This is not a financial statement. Net worth here means what kind of a person you are, what kind of a valuable resource you are to your organization. What is the net worth and how people look at you to be contributing how people look at you to be a person who value adds to an organization is your network. And believe me, your network can be of very, very great use to you in this process. Evergreen skills, which will take you, why 2023? It will take you beyond for the next decade, are some of these which I just emphasized to you. Gone are the days when you used to say that I'm the gold medalist, I'm the topper, so I deserve the best job. You may be the gold medalist, you may be the topper, but the organization today is looking for the right person to hire, not necessarily the best person. Here is where I emphasize again, your communication skills define your personality. Your communication skills define how you are able to relate to people and predict how you can be part of an organization and add value to that organization. These have unfortunately been downplayed over the last many decades. Soft skills, communication skills, listening skills, personality development skills, listening skills, so critical. I'm amused to share with you that today another very important dimension in communication is technical communication. Communicating in a group of friends, communicating in the canteen is so different from communicating in a boardroom. Formal communication through email is so different than informal communication through email. LinkedIn, as I told you, is a professional networking community. It's not that fun community like a Facebook. Instagram Live and Instagram per se is used a lot for networking, but more among the social, the fun, and the connector. See how you can leverage by using so many of these platforms to ensure your networking is great and therefore it adds on to your net worth. So if I were to connect what I was trying to share with you right from the beginning, your success in the career will depend on your pursuit for happiness. Trust me, success will follow. We've done enough in trying to take up careers for other people's sake. Just because there's a mad rush for that career, just because the parents felt that continue the family tradition of becoming a doctor or a lawyer. Choose that career where you will be happy. I can assure you, you will be successful. Move towards a positive approach to VUCA, which I highlighted to you already. Have a vision for your career. Take others along in the success route. Therefore, there is unity in diversity, character building and compassion. And of course, the agility to cope up, to adapt to all the situation around us and see how best one can still contribute and add value to the organization. I mentioned about the core skills, the basic communication skills, includes presentation skills also. We also looked at situations where we said listening skills are so very, very important. We moved on to emphasize the need for digital savvy and, of course, the fact that data analytics is here to stay. Networking and building communities and using networks to improve your net worth, I mentioned, are evergreen skills that you need to acquire for success as we go on. What I'd like to do now is spend another 5 minutes sharing some more of these perspectives, after which I'll be happy to take questions from the audience, however specific or individual they might be. As you progress in your career, please remember, we all want growth in the organization. We all want to be promoted. We all want to climb the highest level of the organization. But in order to do that, the most important thing you need to do is to develop people around you and below you. How can you expect to be promoted if you are not ready to develop someone who can take over from you over a period of time? Unfortunately, what happens is we only want to be promoted, but we don't want to develop somebody to become promoted. Get rid of this insecurity very, very early. Even in college, as I mentioned to you before, if you're good at mathematics, see how you can help others who are weak in mathematics do better. We say this in the corporate world in a jocular manner, that discover your boss's weaknesses. Now, before you assume that I'm up to some naughty suggestions, discover your boss's weaknesses, make them your strengths, and see both of you can collaborate for greater success. If one of you is good in mathematics, help those who are not. It is this unity, it is this synergy that can help you climb the corporate ladder and move towards happiness and success much faster than ever before. Lastly, let's remember one more thing. We spoke about the importance of social media. Social media today has become a tool not only to search for people, not only to connect with people, but I, for one, believe it's a wonderful way of trying to understand a person, his career, his personality, his character, and the track record and achievements. So remember, all recruiting companies do follow your LinkedIn profile or your social media presence. So don't indulge in activities which could be derogatory in nature, which could paint a very negative image about you as an individual. Because social media has now also become a tool for selection. This is something many of us are not aware of innocently. It's good to have fun on social media, but let it be good, clean, healthy fun. The moment you go across the border, the moment you hit below the belt, the moment you are seen as being abusive, abrasive, it goes against you. And remember, a lot of what gets into social media cannot be necessarily deleted because people might have already seen it and it is registered in their minds. And therefore, deleting it becomes next to impossible. As you progress in your career, social media can be a huge leverage to build up your career as far as your own vision, your own dreams, and your own aspirations go. Let's always remember that what counts in life is not what we do only for ourselves. What counts in life is also what we do for others. And here is where I keep saying this. Every one of us is responsible to our society, to our country. It's not enough to be responsible to your family and yourself. We need to develop and imbibe what I call individual social responsibility. Don't confuse this with CSR. CSR is what companies must do as defined as per Companies Act. I'm talking about individual social responsibility. From the smallest activity of following social distancing norms, I am individually responsible. Wearing the mask when I go to a crowded place or I'm out of my own office areas into a public domain. We all owe it to society to be individually responsible. Let's not get into a scenario where we say all these rules are for others and not really for me. Unless every one of us is individually socially responsible, we are never going to be able to live in the society which we dream of, which we aspire for, and which we try to expect by looking at countries all over the world who seemingly have higher happiness indexes, who seemingly have a better lifestyle, and yet we want to be still only talking about the problem and not finding the solution. So, my dear young students and all learners present in this meeting and on YouTube, I'd like to reiterate career planning is an activity which, if systematically done, can take you to all the heights of glory and success that you wish, can help you achieve all the dreams that you have for yourself. But the starting point is career planning. Very often, what happens is we do not get into this planning process. And therefore, by the time we realize what to do, we are guided by either people around us We are guided by the demand supply of careers in the marketplace, and therefore we very often end up doing a course which we are not interested in. And God forbid, if I were to be treated by a doctor who hated being one, or if I had my building to be repaired by an engineer who didn't like engineering, you can imagine the difficulty that any one of us is going to face. So please choose a career which you will be happy in. Choose a career which will lead you to your job satisfaction, happiness, and therefore success. I'd like to pause on that note. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Purnima and team, for Oxford University Press for having facilitated this opportunity to share some of my experiences and suggest some guidelines for effective career planning and ensure that you can develop skills that make you recession proof and also ensure that you're future ready. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take up questions. You're welcome to put them in the chat box. That will be the easiest way to reach me, and I'll make an effort to answer them to the best of my abilities. Thank you very much once again. Namaskar, and I will now move on into the question section. First question, how can we improve our communication skills? A wonderful starting point to improve communication skills is to practice. Every time you get an opportunity to speak in public, the most common mistake people do is they pass it on to somebody else. That somebody else in school and college is called the bindas person. You tell him, "Are tu to bindas hai, jaake bol le." You're losing every opportunity to speak. It may be a one-on-one conversation. It could be a one-to-many conversation. Please begin somewhere. So the first aspect of communication is the speaking part. You've got to get over that shyness, step one. You've got to get over the stage fear, step two, particularly when you're talking in public. I know a lot of people actually end up telling me that, I'm so scared when I go on stage, I just can't speak. When I stand up to talk, my mind sits down and no words come out. I often tell them in fun that, look, tomatoes and eggs are too costly to be thrown at you. Don't worry, nobody's going to do anything. The message here is, unless you try, you can never cross the first mental block and the hurdle. So step one towards verbal communication is practice. Never lose an opportunity to speak. However difficult, however unsure you are, even if you have a problem speaking in English, speak in Hindi, but speak. Because overcoming stage fear is just one part of the issue. Developing the skill to speak in English is the second part of the issue. Please don't mix up these two issues. The second thing in communication skills is be a very patient listener. When we talk about listening, the first thing to do is stop talking. Resist the temptation to speak when someone else is. Keep a book and pen handy and write down the key points being discussed. This is another useful way to build up your listening skills. Lastly, be conscious of your body language, because that's another very, very important part of the communication process. What we try to emphasize here is very often our mind speaks out through our expressions. And sometimes our verbal expression is actually different from our non-verbal expression. It's almost like someone asks you, how are you feeling today? And if you were to say, I'm feeling happy. Now that's truly an emphasis that you're feeling happy. But if the same person gave you a response saying, I'm feeling happy, almost you get a feeling that the expression, the tone, the voice, the body language is not really conveying the same message. Be conscious about your body language, because the paradoxical thing about body language is Everybody can see your body language except you. So therefore, be very conscious about body language. There's a full science of body language called neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. You can Google, get some information, read up so many books that are available in the area of communication skills, personality development, as I mentioned to you earlier. And this is a good starting point to develop your communication skills. Of course, today's digital world gives you another huge advantage. The plenty of YouTube videos and the plenty of reading material, exercises, quizzes that you can find in the digital world. Use all these, and I'm confident you can develop your communication skills appropriately. I'd like to take the next question. How can we balance between life requirements as happiness, as some fields of career don't pay in terms of money, but gives happiness? That's a nice question. And one of the ways to define this is very simple. Please define what will make you happy. And if you were to define what will make you happy by only defining how much money will make you happy, no harm, define it that way. Trust me, there are so many people who are successful in their career, but they are not happy doing what they are doing. There are so many people who are happy getting a lesser salary than a peer who's perhaps getting more salary, but enjoying what they're doing, deriving a lot of satisfaction out of what they're doing. Because one thing I'm very sure, if you're in a career which you're not enjoying, it's going to pile up on your stress. And you know, a high degree of stress can lead to a lot of health problems, starting with hypertension, down to problems related to heart, could be diabetes, and so on. I'm not here to scare any one of you. But all I'd like to tell you is choose a career where you will derive happiness and satisfaction. I know it might not always happen so fast for everybody. It may not happen so systematically for everybody. And therefore, the approach is keep your patience. Take one step at a time. If you're not satisfied doing what you're doing, first discover what is it that will give you job satisfaction. Develop your skills in that area. Do some additional courses. There are so many e-learning modules available today's digital world. Hone your skills, develop the competencies, then try to see if you can move your role, your position within the same company. If that option is not available, you can always look at moving out of that company to another organization. The next important thing to remember is don't develop the herd mentality. Hey, everyone is doing a course on blockchain. Let me also do it. Please find out first if there is an interest for you in that area. Would you be comfortable working on blockchain? Or is it that you need to develop a skill, let us say, in the area of creativity and graphic design? That's your strength. If that's what will interest you, look up for a career in that direction. I repeat, herd mentality often pushes you into a career area which might not have been a preferred choice for you. And if it's not a preferred choice, I can assure you, you're not going to be happy in that career, and therefore you're not going to be successful too. Let's also remember the mind is like a monkey. We tend to move from one element of happiness to another. But yet at the core of it all, if you're satisfied with the work that you do, if you enjoy the work that you're doing, the course that you're studying, I'm sure happiness and success will follow automatically. How to draw the balance between the two is something which you can achieve through introspection, through reflection. Yes, of course. Beyond that, if you're not able to find a solution, please take the help of a career counselor. A career counselor can give you a dispassionate evaluation about what are your strengths, what is your potential, what is it that you would be better doing, and use these as constructive feedback in reshaping your career. There used to be a lot of stigma in the minds of people that if you go to a counselor, it means something is wrong with you. Trust me, that is only when you go for clinical counseling, when you need help and therapy, or when you go to a psychiatrist where you need medical treatment for something like depression, or you have become an addict. That's not simple counseling. That's very, very deep therapy, equivalent to medical treatment. But career counseling is trying to help you find your career goal, your career vision, and what is it that will make you happy in your career. It's just like visiting your family physician, taking a bit of advice on how you can improve your health, or how to take care of yourself in difficult times of the pandemic, or how to get rid of a simple flu or a problem with the eye and get a solution from that person. We don't hesitate to go to a doctor, do we? We don't hide the fact that we are going to a doctor when we are unwell. Why do we need to feel any stigma about visiting a career counselor? So if you think you're not able to discover all the answers for yourself, a career counselor could be a good solution. Reach out to someone who you can trust, and I'm sure you can find those answers for yourself rather easily and move on to career happiness and career success. I have the next question, which asks me, what are the instruments available for career selection? If you Google, you will find a lot of aptitude tests which are available for career selection. These are available for school students, college students, and even for working executives. I won't particularly prescribe to any of them for one reason. Most of them are well made, most of them are well designed. They have stood the test of time over 10, 20, 30 years. But very often, it's not enough to have a career test or a career instrument. What is important is that you need to have it interpreted and analyzed well. And here is where you might need to have the services of a career counselor. You may use an aptitude test or a selection tool just as an indicator. Those which are available online, those which are available free. But any such instrument or test which does not come in with the human intervention, where there is a counselor who is doing the analytics, interpreting it, and presenting it, may be still incomplete. But a lot of such invaluable information is available online. These are great indicators. It is just like in this pandemic period, many of us have got into ordering medicines online. A lot of these are available to you even without a prescription if they are OTC drugs. Many of us have started consulting the doctor online. These are wonderful indicators. But as you realize, if one is not recovering and the case is serious, you can't have online treatment for a patient. Similarly, you can't have an online selection test which can be foolproof, but certainly it could be a very, very good indicator. Traditionally, selection instruments which are very popular are known as 16PF, FIRO-B. These have been there for years around, and they're still being used by organizations. So you can Google up and get some more information on the same. Just checking up the chat box. There's a question here, how will we get the certificate? Feedback has been filled up. I guess the Oxford team is super efficient. They do all this background work appropriately. Rest assured, you will get it at the earliest. If someone on the team wants to add on, they are welcome.
So sorry to interrupt, but unfortunately, there's no certificate for this session.
All right. So that was a question which someone asked. So
yes, so we answered that question. Actually, certificate is there for our certification courses. So those who attended, and this for the webinar, there is no certificate actually. So that's it.
And whoever asked that question, your certificate would be with you if you have listened carefully, if you have absorbed some of what was said, and you try to put to practice at least one of the suggestions starting tomorrow morning. Because it's not enough to just understand. You've got to put to practice, because here we are talking to you about skill building. And skill is something which is not spoken about. Skill is something which is put to practice. Skill is something which is done by ourselves. Skill is something which we can keep upgrading so that we reach a level where you think you're an expert. And don't stop there. Move on to the next skill and the next skill. And that is what is called getting multi-skilled. I guess I have covered the questions that I saw on the chat box. If there are any other questions, they are welcome. I'd like to request colleagues from Oxford, if there is something that you think I need to emphasize upon in the concluding 5 minutes, in case I've missed out something, I'll be happy to do that.
And thank you, sir. I think there are no further questions. So all have been answered. And I think we've just put out some links of some books, which would be very beneficial to students after listening to your session. So if they can, they can go on to Amazon and they can check out these titles. And if they're useful, they can buy them. So there are lots on business communications as well as on our certification skills. So these links are handy. And if they want, they can copy paste these links and keep them with themselves. Thanks.